Hello and welcome. My name is Will Dean. I am the Forest author. Today I'm going to talk about how to impress an agent. Welcome back. It is warm here in the forest. It is breezy. What the f is that? Look at that. It's too glary. Okay, so I'm making this video because I remember what it was like a few years ago before I had an agent. I wanted to know how to get one. I wanted to know how I could impress an agent, sign up with an agent, get on that road, open those gates to where my stories could be published by traditional publishing houses. I'm with my agent for years now. I have a TV agent and a literary agent, and I understand agenting a lot better than I used to, so I want to share 5 different ways that you could impress an agent. Okay, first of all, before I launch into the 5, the main thing is the book. Always the book. Without a good book, it doesn't really matter if you impress an agent or not. So it's vitally important that you read a lot and you write a lot and you write a good draft, a good manuscript. But having said that, assuming you've written a good book, these are the 5 things that you could do to maybe potentially impress an agent. Number 1, do your research. So when you're submitting to an agent, when you're querying different agents, you need to have done your research so you know that that particular agent represents the genre that you write in. You need to understand whether or not that particular agent is open to submissions right now. You need to do thorough research to know how that agent wants to receive their submission, because some agents like their submissions to be or their queries to be sent to them via a particular email address, like a general agency submission email address. Some like it sent to their own particular email address. Other agents want to be queried via a submissions form on the agency website. So do your research, make sure you're querying in the right way. And this will overlap with point 2, but also when you write your cover letter, make sure it's tailored to that particular agent. Make sure you've done your research. Make sure you know what they have sold recently. Trawl through whatever free articles you can find or whatever tweets you can see from the bookseller to see if that particular agent has been involved in an auction recently or has sold an interesting book at Frankfurt Book Fair or London Book Fair, Bologna Book Fair. It's really a good idea to tailor your cover letter so that you can have a little one-liner in there. I'm submitting to you because you sold blah 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 at blah blah blah, or I'm submitting to you because you sold blah blah blah, a book that I really really enjoyed. Something like that. Like, it needs to be bespoke to that particular agent. Point 2, you need a great query. You need a great submission package. So when I say submission package, that normally means a great cover letter, a really strong, punchy, concise, impactful cover letter. A good, well-written synopsis, which is again a technical document, but you need to include the entire story, the bare bones of the entire story. You need to explain what the main conflict is. You need to introduce a couple of the main characters, and you need to tie it up by explaining the ending of the book. And that all needs to be done in 1 page so that the agent can glance through and see, okay, this is a book. This makes sense. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And finally, and most importantly, really, your first chapters, whatever pages you include with your submissions package, and make sure they are exactly what the agent has asked for, whether that's 50 pages, 10 pages, the first 3 chapters. Make sure that they are as polished and as good as you can make them. You want to be working on those early chapters over and over and over again. I cannot emphasize this enough. There should be no spelling mistakes, no major grammatical errors. I think if it's brilliantly written and it's a really interesting story, then you can get away with a few spelling mistakes. But like, why give red flags? You know, why put yourself through it? Make sure you reread it, make sure you proofread it, make sure you give it to your spouse or your mum or whoever to proofread it as well. Read those first few chapters out loud over and over again to make sure that they are as good as you can make them. Make sure your opening sentence is really, really strong. Make sure your opening paragraph is really, really strong. It needs to launch your novel. It needs to introduce your main characters. You know, those first chapters are so vitally important. So make sure you query in a professional way. Point number 3 is like, make sure you write a good book. And that sounds a bit flippant, but it's a really important, I mean, it's the most important by far factor here. And what I mean by that is, make sure the rest of the book beyond the first 3 chapters is really strong. There's no good in sending a beautifully polished first 3 chapters and then the day after you send it to your dream agent, they request the full manuscript and the rest of the manuscript is kind of shoddy and kind of rushed. Don't rush this. Writing and publishing as a whole is a really slow business. And it's like that for a reason. Like, books, once they're printed and on a bookshelf in a bookshop, you can't improve them. You can't do anything about them. So make sure they're good from the get-go. So make sure the whole book is of the highest quality, the best that you can possibly do. Some common problems with debut books, or any book really, is maybe you have an explosive opening that pulls in the reader. That's great, but the middle cannot be all soggy and boring and slow. The middle needs to have intrigue. Your characters need to have development. They need to have arcs. They need to move on. You need to find a way, at least especially in crime and thrillers, but also with kind of any genre, you need tension or conflict, intrigue. That needs to be peppered through the whole book. You need to maintain tension or intrigue or conflict throughout the entire structure of the book. And then at the end, you need a satisfying resolution, satisfying for the reader in some way. You know, make it as bold and as interesting as you can. That's fundamentally, that's the way to impress an agent, is to write a great book. Point number 4, social media. So with social media, you're not going to particularly impress an agent if you have a Twitter account with 3,000 followers, because it doesn't really mean much. You could have a Twitter account with 3,000 followers. It doesn't mean you've written a good book. If you've written a really good book and you've got a Twitter account with 3,000 followers who have been following your writing journey, yeah, that can be a good thing. I don't think agents are particularly interested, but it's like, it could be an additional bonus. It's a nice additional bonus. If you've got 300,000 Twitter followers, that's kind of a different thing. And that might be something to highlight in your cover letter, because that's kind of a big deal and that can be helpful. But the thing with social media that I want to say is, if you don't have any social media footprint whatsoever, that's okay. That's not going to be a red flag to an agent. You can launch your social media channels if you want to after you've got a book deal or after you've landed an agent. It's not essential to have a social media presence in order to get an agent. It's absolutely not essential. You can have 0 social media presence. No Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, no nothing, but have written a fantastic book. You'll get a book deal. You know, that's the thing. You do not need social media presence. But if you do have a social media presence, tidy it up. Make sure it looks kind of presentable. Writing a book is a creative, artistic thing, but getting a literary agent and having that business relationship with a literary agent, you need to come across professional. Okay, number 5, and I bang on about this a lot, but it's really the most important thing overall, I think. At whatever stage you are in your writing career, whether you're just starting to write your first novel or whether you're 70 years old and you've already published 20 novels, the most important thing about being a writer and impressing an agent or impressing future agents or improving your craft is to read a lot. I don't believe you can write well. I do not believe you can progress in your career if you're not constantly reading really, really good stories. That is the way that a storyteller improves and learns. Part of it is honing your imagination and honing your own craft and honing your own skills, but a big part of it is reading, getting outside of your comfort zone, reading across genres, reading books written by people from different backgrounds to your background. That really is what is the most important, and any agent, I think, within a short period of time will know if you're a wide reader or not, because they'll see it in your work. They'll see it in the books that you reference in your cover letter and your comp titles. They will see it if they meet you for a coffee before they decide to offer representation. They're likely to talk about books that you both like. They're likely to talk about books that you've both read recently. So read widely. If you're not reading widely now, if you're reading a book a month now, increase it to a book every fortnight. That will do more for your writing and your writing career than any tip that I can give you on YouTube. Okay guys, they are the 5 tips to impress an agent. I hope this has been useful. Please do give it the thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please do hit subscribe. Please do leave a comment if you have a question about agents. And I will see you again in a video very, very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi guys, it's Will Dean. I'm in Hong Kong for the Hong Kong Book Fair, and I wanted to share with you my view. I'm on the 30th floor. This is it.